She is not alone. She has numerous men waiting in her inbox, some with luxury cars, others with chiseled abs, all with something to offer. But here you are, without millions, without a model's body, without rehearsed lines. And you know what? That does not matter, because Machiavelli would have smiled with you. He knew something that the others did not. The power is not in appearing to be the best, but in being unforgettable. You can compete, try to impress, send flowers, dedicate songs, write poems, but each attempt to stand out buries you more among the other men. And she feels it, the smell of need, the sweat of anxiety, the tremble of insecurity. She does not analyze it, she detects it, because women do not choose like men, they feel before they think. And here begins the uncomfortable truth: the more you try to please her, the less you appeal. Because in the moment you adapt to what you think she wants, you cease to be yourself. You become the 10th clone, and in that instant, you are lost. But there's another way, a path that almost nobody teaches. It is not about techniques or internet phrases. It is something more profound. It is psychology, perception, emotional power, and yes, also strategy. Machiavelli wrote about empires, manipulation, and dominance. But if he lived today, he would not be in a palace. He would be here teaching you how to conquer something more difficult than a throne. The emotional desire of a woman with numerous options. The curiosity generates attention, and attention is the first step towards desire. They form a line. You create intrigue, they expose themselves. You observe, they become desperate. You choose when to appear. That is not arrogance, it is strategy. It is power without shouting it. It is the difference between an admirer and an emotional experience. And that difference is what defines who stays as an option and who becomes unforgettable. The men that women desire most have something in common. It is not beauty, it is not money, it is energy. It is the calmness of someone who does not need to prove anything, because the one who does not compete projects something terrifyingly attractive. Self-worth. When a man enters a room without trying to draw attention, but his mere presence changes the atmosphere, that is not luck. It is the consequence of a clear mind, of stable emotions, of a complete life. And she feels it before you say a word. The other 9 strive to be the ideal. You become the challenge. They seek to please. You generate impact. They beg for approval. You set the standard. And while they try to fit into their world, you become the only one who does not need to fit in, because you have your own world. There's a rule that nobody teaches you, but that Machiavelli would have put in the first chapter. The man who wins is not the one who plays better, it is the one who changes the rules. While the other 9 compete for her attention, you do something radical. You step out of the game, and that move changes everything. She is used to men who pursue, who respond in the second, who ask if she is okay, who care about what she thinks, what she feels, what she needs. It is not bad to have empathy. What kills attraction is not kindness, it is predictability. When she knows exactly what you are going to say, when you are going to say it, and why you are saying it, the mystery disappears. And without mystery, there is no attraction. Power is not in what you do for her. Power is in what you provoke in her without doing anything extra. When you stop playing, the pattern breaks. She does not know how to react. And that internal discomfort activates something that she does not fully understand. The need to know more about you, not because you made an effort, but because you broke her emotional map. Her brain was prepared for the typical sequence. But you throw her off. The other 9 do what is expected. You do what she cannot anticipate. You are not rude, you are not cold, but you are not an open book either. You are a puzzle that does not come with instructions, and that ambiguity makes you fascinating. That is why, when you do not pursue, you generate value. Because every message you do not send, every response you do not accelerate, every strategic silence, builds an emotional profile much stronger than any beautiful phrase. It is not indifference, It is psychological elegance. It is the presence of someone who has an internal world so solid that they do not need to stand out to be seen. She does not remember you because you talk to her a lot. She remembers you because, although you spoke little, every word had weight. The man who does not play the game becomes the prize. Because you are not just another one trying to enter her life. You are the man who already has a life so complete that she wants to be a part of it. And this is not theory, it is biology. When a woman perceives that you do not define yourself by her validation, her emotional system reorganizes. She no longer sees you as a suitor. She sees you as an anomaly, as an emotionally free man. And that, in a world where everyone else begs for attention, is like seeing fire in the middle of ice. The unexpected is always magnetic. You do not play because you understand that the game is rigged, that you cannot win by competing for attention, that your energy is worth more than her validation. And that posture, although it is not obvious, communicates without words in your body language, in your silence, in your calmness, in your look without anxiety. Because what moves a king also moves a woman, the desire for the scarce, the fascination with the indecipherable, the need to feel something that nobody else can offer her. This is not another seduction video. It is a guide for the few who dare to break the rules of the game. If you are looking for magic formulas, stop here. But if you are ready to become the type of man who does not need to compete because he already understands how to dominate the emotional terrain, then keep watching. Because you are about to discover how to make a woman choose you. Even if she has numerous other options, the other men competing for her do not know it. But they have already lost. Not because they are not attractive, not because they do not have resources, they lost because they believe that seduction is a race. And the more they run, the more they distance her. Because female desire does not respond to pressure, it responds to mystery. One writes to her every morning, another sends her memes. The next one invites her to dinner. They all follow the same pattern: more attention, more attempts, more demonstrations of interest. What they do not see is that by doing so, they place themselves exactly in the same position that of easily available men. And what is available, even if it is valuable, becomes common. And what is common is ignored. Machiavelli knew it. The excess of generosity, without scarcity, only generates contempt, and in seduction, being predictable is being discarded. They adapt to it. You are the one who breaks their pattern. They seek to fit in. You are the one who doesn't mold. And that emotional firmness, that serene posture, says a lot more than 1,000 consecutive messages. The power of not playing along is not a trick. It's the real sign that you chose yourself first. And when that happens, she notices it and can't stop noticing it. Being remembered by a woman has nothing to do with being the most perfect. It has to do with how you made her feel. And that is not recorded with flowers, nor with beautiful phrases, nor with gifts. It's recorded with something that most people don't even know: emotional anchoring. An emotional anchor is an experience that connects an intense emotion with you. It's not logical, it's sensory. And when it happens, every time that emotion returns to her life, she will think of you, even if there are others, even if she's with someone else, even if years go by. Machiavelli would say that this is pure power, because real power is not direct control. It's the ability to influence even when you are not present. And here's the brutal truth: she doesn't remember the one who treated her best. She remembers the one who shook her emotionally the most. Does it seem unfair to you? Maybe it's completely real. That's why many good men end up in oblivion, because they were correct, but emotionally neutral. And the human mind doesn't retain neutrality. It retains extremes. It retains what alters us, what interrupts our stability, what made us feel alive. You don't need to be the best. You need to be impossible to forget. How is that achieved? It's not about manipulating. It's about deepening, going beyond the script that everyone follows. When they tell her you are beautiful, you observe and tell her there's something in the way you see the world that makes me uncomfortable, and I love it. Not because you rehearsed it, but because you are really present. Because you see beyond her body, beyond makeup, beyond the superficial. Most people offer her constant validation. You offer her something rarer, reflection. It's not about pleasing her. It's about making her think of you when you are not there. And that only happens when you touch parts of her that she hadn't even explored, when your words awaken thoughts that cause her internal contradictions, when you make her see something about herself that she didn't even know how to put into words. That's emotional anchoring. And here's the psychological trick. The human brain doesn't just stop at the messenger. If you provoke an intense emotion, her subconscious associates you with that intensity. That's how advertising works. That's how traumas work. And that's how attraction works. You don't want her to see you as the good guy who's always there. You want her to hear a song and think of you, to smell a scent and activate a memory, to see a sunset and wonder where you are. That's being present in her world, even when you are not near. And that's not achieved by competing. It's achieved by creating unique moments. You don't need many. You just need one or two strong anchors, well placed. A conversation that marked her, an unexpected gesture, a phrase that drilled into her mind, a silence that made her uncomfortable, a goodbye that she didn't expect. The others try to be constant. You are the one who creates moments that can't be replicated. They want to stay close. You are the one who, even far away, never completely leaves. But there's an even deeper level. The strongest emotional anchor is not just the one that associates you with an emotion, but with a personal transformation. If she feels that by your side she rediscovers herself, that she thinks differently, that she connects with parts of herself that others never touched, there, not only does she remember you, she needs you. And not because you depend on her, but because you emotionally freed her from an empty emotional routine. You showed her another way to feel. And the most powerful thing is that she can only have that feeling with you. You are not just someone who arrived, you are a before and an after. Each quick message, each unnecessary praise, each desperate gesture says the same thing. You have the power. I just want to be chosen. And that, brother, kills all attraction. Imagine this. You are in a job interview, and one of the candidates comes in and says, I will do anything. Just give me a chance. Does it inspire respect, confidence? No. It inspires pity, because security is not declared, it is projected, and that is what the other men do not understand. They are so focused on being chosen that they forget something essential. A woman does not choose the one who tries the most to impress her. She chooses the one who makes her feel something she cannot explain. That something is born from what you do not do. You do not run, you do not beg, you do not insist, because you know that desire grows in space, that what is scarce is magnetic, that strategic absence says more than 1,000 words. You do not disappear to play. You are absent because you have a life of your own, and that is felt. The man who does not compete creates an unsettling sensation. She wonders, why do you not act like the others? Why do you not chase? Why do you not crawl like the others? That doubt generates curiosity. You are not just an intense experience. You are a new emotional standard. After you, the other 9 not only seem less, they appear irrelevant. And that feeling, that emotional distortion is not easily erased. There's a reason why you can be everything she says she wants and still not be chosen. And it's not your fault. It's just that nobody taught you how female psychology really works. Not in school, not your friends, not your parents, but today you will. Because what you are about to understand is going to completely reconfigure how you see desire. First, you need to know this. The female brain processes desire differently from the male brain. And it's not a metaphor, it's neuroscience. Functional magnetic resonance imaging studies have shown that while men activate more visual regions when attracted, women activate more areas associated with emotional memory like the amygdala and hippocampus. What does this mean? She doesn't fall in love with what she sees, but with what she feels with you. Men are attracted to visual stimuli, women to what those stimuli provoke internally. That's why two men can have the same physique, but one generates desire and the other doesn't. The difference isn't in the body, it's in the emotional resonance. And here comes the first scientific key: emotional intensity, unpredictability, deep attraction. Female desire needs two things: an intense emotion, and for that emotion not to be completely predictable. If you are linear, constant, always correct, you don't generate emotional curves. And without emotional curves, there's no depth. Now you understand why the good guy ends up being ignored, because he generates stability, but not emotional stimulation. On the other hand, the man who masters his energy, who doesn't react like everyone else, who maintains a mix of interest and mystery, activates a different dynamic, that of emotional fascination. A second powerful fact, according to attachment theory developed by Bowlby and deepened by Mary Ainsworth, the strongest bond is not formed with whoever gives the most, but with whoever regulates their emotional presence with intelligence. It's not about disappearing to manipulate, it's about knowing how to dose. Because when you are constant without pause, you don't create dopamine. But when you mix moments of deep connection with spaces of silence, you generate a psychological phenomenon called emotional anticipation, which is much more powerful than any gift or nice word, and that's science. A third concept: a woman doesn't remember what you did for her, she remembers how she felt about herself when she was with you. If by your side she feels more alive, more authentic, more seen, you create a much deeper bond than if you just flatter her. That's why the 9 admirers fail, because they focus on her. You focus on what she feels about herself when she's with you, and that puts you in a completely different category. You are not the 10th suitor. You are the emotional reflection that connects her with internal parts she didn't even know she had. Here's another psychological gem. The brain doesn't distinguish between what it imagines and what it remembers. If you get her to fantasize about you, to imagine you in situations, to project herself emotionally in scenarios with you, you are occupying real neurological space. You are not just in her mind, you are in her neural network. And that is not achieved by whoever does the most, but by whoever provokes better. All this is invisible from the outside, but inside her, you are building an emotional empire. And as Machiavelli said, it's easier to conquer a fortress with intelligence than with brute force. That applies to seduction more than to war. While others think that seducing is making someone laugh, you understand that seducing is making someone feel, and not just anything. Feeling something unique, something she can't get with anyone else. You are a new emotional benchmark. You are reprogramming your way of understanding the game, no longer competing, now understanding that attraction is not won, it is generated, that desire is not begged for, it is awakened, that power is not imposed, it is projected. And this understanding, this deep emotional education, is what puts you miles above the rest. Because a man who knows the female mind does not need to manipulate it, he just needs to be himself, being confident, the key point. He never tells you with words, but he feels it, knowing perfectly when he is in front of a man who does not need his attention to feel complete. And this type of man, the one who does not play, does not run, does not react like the rest, has a power that cannot be ignored. While the others keep talking too much, you learn to keep silence at the right moment, not because you have nothing to say, but because you understand something they will never comprehend. True power lies in provoking emotions, not in filling empty spaces. And this is where the idea that being congruent with oneself is crucial, being firm in your stance, so that your mere presence becomes a message, an emotional warning. She notices it, but cannot explain it, because what you communicate is not in your words, it is in your energy. There is a subtle tension when you talk to her, not anxiety, but focus. She realizes you are not playing the same game as the others. You are not there to please, nor to conquer. You are there because you are interested in discovering, not impressing, and that takes her out of her programmed script. When a man does not react like the others, something breaks in a woman's emotional narrative. She is used to provoking certain responses, immediate attention, disguised need, constant validation, but you do not deliver that, not because you are indifferent, but because you are at a higher level of emotional control, and this level is not reached by accident. You have already understood that female desire does not respond to effort, it responds to perception, and if she perceives that you are scarce, not by strategy, but by nature, if she perceives that you are not trying to please her, but simply being yourself, then she starts to look differently, observes you with more attention, wonders why you do not react, why you do not chase her, why you do not need her to choose you. And that creates the perfect tension, the mix between attraction and uncertainty. Because real desire is born in not having complete control, the mistake of the others is that they want to be understood. You, on the other hand, want to be felt. You do not give explanations, you give presence, you do not throw promises, you show coherence, you do not play at being the ideal. You are the one who sets your own standards and defends them. And that is felt in every detail. When you speak to her, there is weight. You do not talk much, but every word seems to have been chosen. Not because you are acting, but because you know who you are. This security cannot be faked. It is built with introspection, with discipline, with limits, with experience. And that is why she cannot treat you like the others. Because with you, there is no room for her games. Because you do not run after anyone. Because you do not stay where there is no reciprocity. And that, although it costs her to admit it, generates respect. The idea is that when a woman feels that she can lose you at any moment, not because you manipulate her, but because you can simply walk away in peace, her entire emotional system goes on alert. You are no longer in the category of replaceable men. Now you occupy a completely different space, that of a man who, if he does not stay, leaves a real void. And this void is not filled by the others, no matter how hard they try, because you did not offer validation, you offered vision. You didn't give her promises, you gave her reflections. You didn't treat her like a prize, but like someone who had to be at your level. And that sensation, that pressure, soft and firm at the same time, is what creates the difference between being just another suitor and being an emotional experience she can't ignore. That's Machiavellian strategy applied to seduction, not from manipulation, but from emotional intelligence, from brutal self-assessment, from active detachment. Because you know something the other 9 don't. It's not the man who gets the most attention who's more of a man, it's the one who can walk away without looking back. And that ability to leave with peace is the most powerful weapon you have. Most men believe that staying is a sign of love, that insisting, enduring, waiting patiently is a signal of commitment. But what nobody told them is that in the emotional game, power isn't in staying. Power is in being able to leave without fear. And here comes the brutal paradox. The man who's willing to leave is the one who stays the most. Why? Because he doesn't stay out of need, he stays out of choice. And that changes everything. She feels it, doesn't think it, intuits it. You are not tied down, not hooked, not trying to convince her of anything. If she leaves, you accept it. If she doesn't respond, you don't get unbalanced. If she changes, you remain firm, and that ability to stay whole, even in her absence, is exactly what makes you impossible to replace. The human mind doesn't value what it can't lose. And when you project that you are not willing to stay where you are not valued, you are sending a stronger message than any romantic declaration. I can live without you and still choose to be here. But only as long as there's reciprocity. For an emotionally mature woman, that's not a threat, it's attractive. Because you are showing that you have something most people don't, operational self-respect, not empty pride, but a posture of internal clarity. You don't give up. You simply don't insist where there's no echo, because you know your energy is too valuable to waste. And what happens when she feels she can lose you? The game changes completely. You are no longer the one pursuing, now you are the one who can disappear. And that doesn't generate fear, It generates emotional urgency. Because if she perceives that you can truly walk away, without drama, without vengeance, without complaint, simply out of self-respect, then she's no longer evaluating you as an option. Now she's evaluating you as an emotional reference. And that's a completely different level. That's when she stops comparing you to others, because you are not competing, because you are not playing to win her attention, because you've already won something more valuable, self-control. And at that point, your presence becomes a paradox. You are the one who can leave, but also the only one worth staying for. You are the one who doesn't need love to feel complete, but the one who can give it most deeply. You are the one who doesn't demand anything, but whose absence is felt like a real void. And that's when everything changes. When you can look a woman in the eye and say, without rancor, without anxiety, without pain, I don't need to be here. But while I was, I gave myself completely. That's a statement of emotional power. And the best part is, it doesn't require explanation, because she knows it, has seen it, has felt it. The other 9 do everything to stay. You become unforgettable, because you are the only one who can leave in peace. Machiavelli said, whoever depends on someone else will never govern his own destiny. In seduction, that translates like this. If your emotional state depends on how she treats you, you've already lost. But if your peace is non-negotiable, then there's no woman who doesn't notice. You are not here to earn her validation. You are here to see if her energy is compatible with yours. And if it's not, you keep walking without hatred, without complaints, just with clarity. When she sees you walking with dignity, when you don't stop her, when you don't insist again, when you don't remind her of what she lost, that's when you start occupying space in her mind like never before. Because the one who is not afraid to lose is the only one who can stay genuinely. When you embody this mindset, it sounds good, right? You feel identified, inspired, even a bit energized. But nothing changes if you don't apply it. And this is where most people fall, because they listen, understand, get excited, but don't take action. They keep sending that message when they shouldn't. They keep chasing what ignores them, keep lowering their standard to fit into places where they are not valued. So, here it goes, straightforward, without excuses. If you really want a woman to choose you, even if she has 1,000 options, you have to become the kind of man who can choose first. And that starts with small acts of emotional power. When she cancels plans, don't get offended, but also don't adjust as if you have nothing better to do. Respond calmly and continue with your life, making her feel that your agenda isn't moved by whim, but by decision. When she leaves you on scene, don't write again, don't explain, don't complain. Stay silent, letting your absence say what your words shouldn't shout. You don't compete for attention. When she shows disinterest, don't compensate with more enthusiasm. Reflect her energy. And if that energy is cold, you set boundaries, not out of pride, but by standard. And that, brother, is trained. It doesn't happen overnight. But if every time you feel the urge to beg for validation, you replace it with an action of self-worth, your mind reprograms. You start feeling power where there was anxiety, security where there was fear, clarity where there was confusion. And yes, it hurts at first because your ego wants everything to work. But when you understand that nothing that demands you to lower yourself is worth it, the real change begins. When you stop seeking external validation, you start to feel a different kind of power. You are not competing, you are making an impact. And if until now you thought it wasn't enough, that you were missing something, that you should become someone else to please her, engrave this. You don't need to be the best man in the world. You just need to be the kind of man who doesn't betray his worth for anyone. That's the one who stays. So, don't ask how to impress her anymore. Ask yourself, am I living like a man who chooses himself every day? Because when the answer is yes, you don't need to do anything else. She feels it. Most people will watch this and won't change anything. They'll keep competing, begging, chasing, becoming the 10th suitor of a woman who doesn't even remember their name. But not you. You've come this far for something more, because you already know that desire isn't begged for, it's generated, that respect isn't demanded, it's projected, and that a woman doesn't choose the one who insists the most, she chooses the one who chooses himself the most. You've understood that when you become a strong, authentic, deep emotional experience, there's no possible replacement. It doesn't matter how many messages she receives, how many hearts give her a like, how many people chase her. You are not competing, you are making an impact. And if until now you thought it wasn't enough, that you were missing something, that you should become someone else to please her, remember this. You don't need to be the best man in the world. You just need to be the kind of man who doesn't lower his value for anyone. That's the one who stays. Select the one who is not afraid to leave, becomes choose the individual unafraid to depart. Luego se traduce al inglés y se edita. Select the person unafraid to go away, se reemplazna algunas palabras. Pick the person fearless about departing, y se ajusta para cumplir con las normas. Pick the person fearless about going away, finalmente se ajusta la longitud y se corrige la punctuation. Pick someone fearless about going.